Well, if this was ever a full circle moment for my client, Julia, she is recording today with me from her little girl's nursery. And prior to this recording, she emailed me, say, back in December, and she reflected and she gave me an update. And when she left the program, I knew she was pregnant, but about a year to the date of her starting the program, she delivered her baby girl. And so I'm going to read a little bit of the email as an introduction for you guys. When she started the program, she shares she knew it was going to be a challenge and a journey that took every bit of me. When I was in those 3 months, it seemed like the hardest thing I've ever done. Through the help of you, the support of the group, my husband, my friends, I had the most incredible outcome that I could ever have dreamed of, a positive pregnancy test. 1 year later, here I am sitting with my beautiful baby girl as I write this. And looking back, I wouldn't have changed one thing about my journey. Nothing was easy about it. And I still think it was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, even harder than pregnancy and labor. But it brought me the biggest joy of my life. She was so excited to be invited onto the podcast to record because she knows how deeply other stories have impacted her when she was going through this journey. So without further ado, let's dive into Julia's story and hear from her herself how challenging but yet rewarding the recovery process can be. Julia, welcome to the podcast.
Aw, thank you so much for having me. Feels
I
like a
am
dream
so
come true being here.
yes, and we'll talk about that dream come true, but I just want to say, well, actually, right now, Julia and I are talking from her daughter's nursery.
Right. 1 year
Her
later.
1 year later, almost, was it December? Was that the exact
I
1 year?
so I joined the program in December and got my period back in January, almost to like very close. It's like the weekend leading up to Martin Luther King weekend, which is this coming weekend. That's when I got it back. So it's like almost a year to the date today, which is crazy.
Yeah, and now you're sitting in your daughter's nursery
Yeah.
recording this
Yep.
podcast.
Yep.
Like,
She
how
just kicked
did you
me.
did you
She knows.
ever Did you ever picture this? Like a year ago, what was going through your mind a year ago?
Oh, geez. Well, a year ago, I feel like I was in the depth of the program and just kind of at the low, right? Because you're like, I've been in this for a couple of weeks and haven't quite seen results yet. And so you're just in your feels about all the changes that were happening. So in that moment, you want to get out and you can't even see like what's to come. But if I could look at myself a year later and say, like, just hang on, girl, like, you've got this, because a year later, this is what your life is going to look like that would have been all the motivation that I needed at the time. But it looks a lot different than it did a year ago. My life now does. And I wouldn't want it any
Yeah.
other way. But it just comes with, hanging on and really kind of persevering through the biggest challenges. And the biggest reward is on the other side.
Yeah, yeah. And so if what I'm hearing is kind of again, we can't predict the future per se, but I think a lot of times we're so in our heads of like, I'm not going to get my period back or I'm never going to
Hmm.
become a mom one day. And
Yeah.
like, and that's for so many reasons, but you know, going back to where you were and potentially having those thoughts, did you have those thoughts, Julia?
Oh, 100%. I mean, you just think, I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to be the exception, right? Like, I'm going to do all this hard work and I'm going to live and breathe it, give it my all, and I'm still not going to see results. Like, I don't know why I told myself that, but I did think that very constantly. Like, I'm going to be the person that, like, this doesn't work for. And I'm going to give it 3 months of my life. And then I'm going to be still in the same position of like having to go through IVF or whatnot. So, yeah, it's so easy to tell yourself in the moment, like, this isn't going to work. Until you see the results.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
so what I'm hearing is that if you could give your younger or last year self some advice, you would tell her to hold on and to know like this is possible.
Oh
Like
my
this
gosh,
is
yes.
possible.
Yes, and I think one of the biggest things that I did to, set myself up for this to happen was go all in. And when I started the program, really even before I started the program, I knew that I had to like commit 100% of myself to the program, versus like kind of half-assing it. I think, and there's girls in the group who are like, yeah, I went to a yoga class this week, or I went to like a Pilates class. And
Mhm.
I knew that if I did anything other than just like a slow walk, that it would spiral into something else. And so, reiterating to myself, like, you have to go all in, you have to give this your very all. That is what led me to the place that I'm at now. And that's what led me to getting a period like, I think it was in 10 weeks. No, no, less than
Yeah.
that. It was like 6 weeks. So really going all in, like that was the recipe for success. And really just
Yeah.
committing to it and committing to the process and just kind of surrendering to the process.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
the word surrender.
Yeah.
And
It's
I just
hard.
wanna say, Julia, I love that you mentioned that, like, what worked for you was going, quote, unquote,
Mhm.
"all in,"
Mhm.
right? But you saw other girls that were kinda like, "Alright, I'm gonna still do this, a little bit of that, a little bit."
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody gets to choose the way they want to get their period back
Yeah.
in the way that works for them. And for you, that
Yep.
was you knew yourself. You tapped into like, okay, well, what do I need? Like, no, I need to like completely not go to the gym and
Oh, yeah.
like,
Yep.
you weren't sitting on the couch eating McDonald's every day. I know that.
No.
But you were definitely eating, different much differently than you were. And so I just
Yep.
wanted to just share that with the audience because I think we have these preconceived things of like, oh my gosh, like I have to go all in or I have to do it a certain way. And I think just
Right.
asking yourself that, like, how do I want to approach this? And then also, what if you decided you went all in and then, okay, this is not working for me? There's no
Yeah.
rule that you have to stay there,
No.
right?
No.
So I appreciate you sharing that and also just sharing the surrender, that word of like, can we just surrender? Can we let go?
Yeah.
And just trust. Maybe at that particular time you didn't have in your head like I'm going to be a mom at this time last year.
Yeah.
But can we just trust that this is going to turn out better than we ever imagined,
Yep.
right?
And it's so hard to see that in the moment because you're in like such a space of like dysfunction because you're like giving up everything that you're so used to and trying to achieve something so new and something that you don't. I hate to say it this way, but like I didn't want to be in that place, like I didn't want to be eating that way. I didn't want to be like not active, but you want it for a certain reason. For me, it was
Mhm.
getting having a family. And so I hated the process of it all, but it got me exactly what I wanted. So
Yeah.
I had to surrender. I had to put myself in that place of being like, all right, I'm choosing this because no one forced me to do it. I chose to do
Yeah.
it. So that's why I felt so compelled too to just like give it my all because I chose this, right? Like I put
Yeah.
myself
You
in this
chose it.
position previously and then I'm choosing to put myself in a position to be able to have a child down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I know, Julia, I think at one point doctors told you, like, you were gonna have to do IVF?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. Um, so probably in the fall of 2024, when I first, yeah, fall of 2024, um, I wasn't getting my period back. They diagnosed me with HA. I didn't really understand what that meant. And then I had multiple people telling me, you're probably not going to be able to get pregnant on your own. You might as well go to a fertility specialist. And I did exactly that. Saw a fertility specialist. They were like, great, we'll sign you up for IVF. Like, it was like you didn't even really have a chance to ask questions. They just kind of proceeded forward with motion. And not knowing any better, I was like, well, this is my option, right? Like this is the only way that it's going to happen for me. And until I did the research, until I started listening to your podcast and some other podcasts about HA, I had no idea that it was curable, right? Like that you can actually do something to fix it rather than spend $25,000 potentially to try the IVF, but then your body's not even a place that it will be healthy enough to carry a child. So you're not even guaranteed a child after spending that much money and continuing some questionable habits, right?
Mm.
So, that was, that was kind of what they told me. And then I did my research and I realized that I think the point in which I realized, oh, this is what we have to do. I remember, so I listened to like all of your podcasts. I listened to all these podcasts from, about HA. And there was a woman who shared her story and about her moment of finding out, like, oh God, this is what I have to do. It's on me. I listened to her story and she framed it in a way of talking about how it would be selfish to go through IVF. And that resonated so much with me because I think at that moment I realized I have options, right? Like I could go through IVF and my husband's going to support me and we're going to do it. But that's selfish, right? Because I could be changing my habits. I could do something different in order to not go through that door, number 1, right, of IVF. And then door number 2 was do the hard work, right? Like go through the program and try to do this on my own. And so when she said that, I just remember crying and being like, she's right. Like, it's so selfish for me to be like, "Okay, Rob, we're gonna do IVF. We're gonna pay money, so much money to do this when I have the ability to fix this on my own. I have the ability to go through a program that will teach me how to get my period back and will coach me through that." And so I remember just being like, "Okay, this is what I have to do." And it sucked, right? Like, I didn't want to do it, but I knew that
Mm.
it was what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of the path
Yeah.
of how, I got from them telling me I needed to go through IVF to getting myself into the program and
Yeah.
saying, you know what, I'm going to, because I can give it 3 months, right? And if I get through the program and I'm still unsuccessful, then I can go back and revisit IVF. But it would have been jumping the gun. It would have been selfish. And how is that fair,
Yeah.
right? How's that fair to my husband? How's that fair to my future family? It's not.
Mm.
And so,
Yeah. And I
yeah,
appreciate you sharing that, Julia. And
yeah,
like, what resonated with you, like that just like clicked for you. Like that really
yeah,
felt not selfless, selfish to you.
yeah.
And, and that was like, I don't want to say a motivating factor of like not that like the
Hmm.
sole motivating factor, but like it was a motivating factor. And so what I want to say is like sometimes we just need these little like pings
Yep.
that motivate
Oops.
us to take the next best step forward for us.
Yep.
And I think you said when you emailed me
Hmm.
photos of your beautiful little girl back in, I think it was December, was it the end of November? I can't remember the time frame it
Yep.
was, but you pretty much said like
Oh.
there was such a correlation to dates and like
Hmm.
times as far as like your appointments and stuff. Can you share a little bit about, because I feel like that is very like
Timing.
something bigger than us and, some
Yeah.
divine kind of thing. So could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So it was the date of her induction 1 year later. So October of 2024, I had an appointment at the IVF clinic, and it was the last appointment that I had scheduled with them. And that was where they like forward motion, okay, we're going to put you on the calendar. We'll get you in January. We'll do the egg retrieval, all of that. So it was the 28th, October 28th, 2024 was my last IVF appointment. And then I was induced. No, it was October 29th, excuse me. And I was induced on October 29th, 2025.
Yeah.
So it was like 1 year later because I remember being like, wow, like, Rob, can you believe this? Like 1 year later, this is where we were last year talking to IVF folks. And now here we are. I'm almost about to give birth. So I looked back at my calendar
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my God, like, what are the
To the day.
chances? Yeah, to the day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So yeah, amazing.
it
And
is.
I just want to say like your thought, so you went to this IVF, center. And I don't want to like talk too much about IVF, but I think it's just so important to
Hmm.
touch upon like you did the next thing that you thought you were supposed to do
Yeah,
was go to IVF if you wanted to create a family. And
sure.
in turn, when you got there, it was kind of like you were almost like an assembly line. Like, okay,
Oh,
here we
yeah.
go. We got another one. Like, let's get her
Yeah.
on the calendar, do the like nothing like, by the way, like, what's going on with, your exercise or what's, and even if they did ask those questions, they might have validated like, oh, you're so healthy. Like this is
Yeah.
unexplained infertility. And I was talking with another colleague, and she was like, that to me, there's no such thing as unexplained fertility.
Yeah.
Maybe like 2% of the population. I'm like, I totally agree there. But because these doctors, I don't want to say these doctors, not all doctors, but if you feel like you are going to an IVF center and like you're being treated like another number, that is just one kind of red flag there.
Yeah.
But I want to say for you, Julia, I want to know like what made you say like, let me stop. Was it that podcast was like, let me stop for a second and like reevaluate here before
Yeah.
I go into IVF, or even before you heard that podcast, was it kind of like, this doesn't seem right. It doesn't feel like I should be there. Was there any intuitive
Yeah.
feeling if you can remember?
So at first I was like, "Oh, this is what I'm supposed to do." And I think the more that I kind of opened up to people about it too, it was actually one of my sisters. So I'm one of five, and my middle sister, who was pregnant at the time, she had really kind of encouraged me, like, are you sure this is not something that you can do on your own? Like, are you sure that it can't be done naturally? And
Mm,
she really kind of pushed me on it. So I definitely attribute a big part of why I decided not to just kind of proceed down the line of IVF. So she was definitely a big instigator in that and just made me kind of like reflect on it more before I just like
mm,
signed up. And then the podcast really, and just hearing, all of these validating stories and stories that were very similar. They were all some iteration of me or some iteration of, peers in my group.
mm,
We all have a lot of the similar stories. And so being able to be like, listen to those and then go, oh, okay, I can do something to fix this. It's not just get in line at the IVF assembly and,
mm.
we'll get you in, at the next available scheduling opportunity.
Yeah.
It was something more that I could do. And so I think having my sister push me on it and then also just listening to other real stories of girls that are in the same exact spot helped kind of
Mm,
guide me forward and give me that push that I needed. Um, to hear. But I will
yeah.
say, at the where I went for IVF, the consult, they said, "Oh, you have HA, you should gain a couple pounds and eat more." Okay, cool. Like, how do I do that? Right? Like, what? It was just as if it was an easy thing to achieve,
Yeah.
and not realizing that's so much harder said than done. Like, or
Done.
so much easier to just say that than actually do it for somebody who's in that position of like obsessed with working out and eats a certain
Yeah.
way. Like it's not as easy to be like, go gain a couple pounds and stop going to the gym so much. They
Yeah.
just don't get it in the same sense of
Yeah.
going through the program and really getting the coaching and the support that I got in order to,
Yeah.
get me to where I am now.
Yeah, that extra layer, like, okay, so
Yeah.
you gotta eat more, you gotta rest more. Okay, cool. But like there's a whole nother layer on top of that of like
Yeah.
getting to that place. And after they said
Right.
that to you, Julia, were they like, maybe you won't even need IVF if you do that? Was there any of that? Or was it
I'm sure they said that, but they're in a business, right? Like they're not they
yeah.
at the end of the day, they want you to have a child, of course, right? But
Yes,
they're
that's the
also
outcome. Yep.
thinking, well, we need clients. So they're going to
Hmm.
give you that advice, but most people are going to go, well, I don't even know how to do that. So
Yeah.
I'm
So
not
let
going
me
to do
just
that. Yeah, so I'll just
yeah.
sign up.
Yep.
Which I almost did, and
Yeah.
if I didn't layer it with doing my own research and listening to other testimonies, I don't think that I would be in the place. Like I don't think I would have been in the same place. I
Yeah.
think I would have gone with them because they were telling me that's what I should do, and that's
Yeah.
probably the only way that I was going to get pregnant.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, and hopefully that was the case that you would have actually gotten pregnant if you did do IVF because
yeah,
there's so many out there that because our bodies aren't in that place of nourish
exactly.
and stuff that it like IVF isn't the fix all.
No.
Like, here you go, here's a baby. So and
No.
plus the money, the time, the
Exactly.
appointments, and like if we're afraid of gaining weight, which
Mm,
there hasn't been one woman that said to me, "Yeah, I'll gain all the weight and it doesn't matter." Like, you're
mm.
gonna gain weight doing IVF too, you know?
Yes.
So it's like,
Yes.
but
Path of
anyways,
least resistance.
yes, yes, yes. So, okay, so let's kind of back up just a tad
Yeah.
bit. And Julia, can you share just what is your like? How did you lose your period in the first place? Like, what's the story there?
Well, I was trying to reflect back on that and think about like, oh, when is it that I lost it? And honestly, I can't remember back to when I lost my period. I
Mm,
think it was one of those things that it just kind of happened and I didn't think twice about it. Which is sad almost because like we should know more about our cycles and know that that's not a healthy thing when you lose your cycle. But it had been on and off for maybe a couple of years, and then I went on birth control and didn't have a period, and I thought that was totally normal. And maybe that's a miss on my education, but I just thought, oh, that's normal. I'm on birth control, whatever, right? Until I got off of birth control in the spring of 2024, I thought it was normal. And then I got off, and I remember people saying, it might take you a couple months to get it back. And I was like, okay, that's probably going to be true because I haven't had it in so long. Couldn't tell you the last time I had it. And so then when I didn't have a period by, let's call it the fall of 2024, I was like, "Ooh, this isn't good." I remember telling my mom, and she was like, "You should make an appointment with your OB."
mm,
And I did, and that's when they tell you you have hypothalamic amenorrhea, and you're like, "I'm sorry, what? Like, what does that even mean?"
yeah.
And along the same lines, okay, you maybe need to gain a couple pounds and stop doing so much cardio. Okay. It's just, that's great information, but how do you even accomplish that?
Mm,
And how long does it take for that to even work? And so that was the diagnosis. I'll refer you to a fertility specialist was kind of the next thing too that they tell you. And so you're just kind of following what you think is right and not but really not knowing all of the information there is to know about HA, what it is, and how you can
yeah.
actually overcome it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just the physical part, but the mental part, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But I
Yep.
just want to say I'm happy to hear you at least got a diagnosis because I
I
miss
did.
the amount of women that are still to this day misdiagnosed or
Yep.
like just give it a little bit more time or like kickstart it with a pill or take some progesterone.
They did do that. I forgot to
Okay,
mention
you got a
that.
little bit
Yep.
of that. Okay.
Yep. And it
Okay.
didn't work because obviously I had HA.
Yeah.
So yeah. But they
Yes.
did
Yes.
diagnose me. And to that point of what did your life look like? It was I exercised every single day, no days off. And my workouts were, an hour and a half long. And that was the way that I started my day. And if I didn't start my day that way, then the rest of the day was wrecked. And so that
Yes.
was, I think, a huge part of what kind of led to the the progression of HA along with my eating. I didn't have enough of the full food groups, right? Carbs are bad for you, fats are bad for you, all of these things that you hear, and I just incorporated into my diet. So the combination of over exercising and not having a proper nutritional diet led me into the place of HA, and just not even realizing it. To be quite honest, I just thought this is what I do. This is normal. And until I had the diagnosis, I really didn't know that I was in a quote unquote bad place, right, with my body.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, it's like, how could we not? Because like the rest of the world is exercising and eating quote
Yeah,
unquote healthy. And I mean, what was life like in the office or like in front of your friends and family? Were they ever like, Julia, you're so healthy, you're so fit, and you're so like, I wish I
100%.
was as disciplined as you?
100%. Yep. That's what, you're repeatedly told that too. So then you just become that person or you embody all of that because people are telling you Oh my gosh, I wish I had the wherewithal to wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym every single day. Like yeah, you're so disciplined or
Mm.
you're so healthy. But it is so funny how people tell you you're healthy and what you're eating is healthy. Even professionals, right? Oh, you eat greens? Great. That's awesome. You eat lots of vegetables? Great. That's awesome. But like, that's actually not all that healthy if you don't have a period and you're pairing that with over exercising. So, yes, eating healthy and exercising are healthy, but when it's in a you know, a, the right amount of it, not overdoing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And but it's hard like to turn that off when like you were just yeah, embodied that version of yourself. So, yeah, it adds an extra layer to it because then it's like, well, if I don't like what are people
Yep.
going to think of me? Was there any of that going on for you, Julia?
Like when I started the program, what that was one of the things that goes through your mind. What are people going to think? Because I was always that person that was exercising and eating healthy, and now I'm eating pasta, or now I'm eating popcorn, or now I'm eating French fries. Like people are going to look at you and go, "Oh, what happened?" Right? Like
Mm,
it's that, and then you have to explain yourself, and it's a whole thing. But
yeah.
yes,
It
I was
feels
that. Yeah,
and it feels really uncomfortable and really like, well, am I going to just have to continue on like this forever? Like
right.
eating this way? Was there
No.
ever any of that for you,
Oh,
Julia?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. You're when you're in the program and you're, constantly having to eat every couple of hours and eat things that you're not used to eating, you're like, "Oh my god, this is gonna be my life forever." But it's not, right? Like, you have to get yourself to a
Yeah.
place where, your body's in a better state, and then you can revise kind of what your diet looks like, but then after the program, okay, carbs are not bad, right? Like, fats are not bad
Mm,
as long as you're not overdoing it, like you said, eating McDonald's every day on the couch, like, that's not the reality,
yeah.
in the long
Yeah.
term.
But for some reason, our voice in our head goes to the worst case scenario, right?
Mhm,
Always.
mhm, mhm. Oh,
That
absolutely.
damn inner self dialogue of like worst case scenario, like what is it? And it's just it's really a protection mechanism from the brain,
Mhm.
especially if we have kind of had negative self talk for a while. And I think just sometimes just simply changing our language of being like, I am going to get pregnant one day, or
Yeah.
this isn't going to be forever, and just
Yep.
those are just little tidbits I just wanted to share with the audience that they could just start doing right now in their pursuit of recovery. So
Yeah.
I want to know for you, Julia, what was the ultimate biggest fear, like the worst case scenario going on in your head about going to eat more and rest more, so you can get a period back and ultimately
Oh,
become a
yeah.
mom?
My fear was the body changes. I'm sure so many people say the exact same thing, but when you're so used to eating, a regimented diet and then working out, and then you go from that scenario to eating all of these different food groups that you have not been eating and then not working out, like, obviously your body's going to change. And that was the whole
Mm,
point of the program, right? Like, you got in it to change your body and to gain the weight to then get your period back. But that was, the biggest fear is what am I going to look like on the other side of this, which is
mm.
so sad, right? Like, it's not about the looks, but then you have people seeing you on Instagram and going, "Oh, what happened to her?" or whatever it may be. So those fears of the judgments from others, which is um the sad reality of our world, is what do other people think of me, not what do I think of myself. It's what is everybody else going to think.
Mm.
So that was a huge fear. And then the fear of just kind of like giving up everything that I knew about my life and liked about my life. Like, I loved going to the gym and I loved what I was eating, and having to give that up, that is a huge fear of just being like, "All right, I'm surrendering to this process." She
I'm
agrees.
like, who am I
Um,
going to become?
yeah, and what am I gonna do with myself? Like, how am I gonna identify myself? All of those fears of just giving up everything, and that's what I was telling people in the moment. I had to give up my entire life, essentially, and that sounds so dramatic, but it was so real. Like, my workouts were such a big part of my day, and the way that I was eating was such a big part of my
Mhm.
lifestyle, and so giving up that lifestyle was a huge fear of mine.
Yeah. And
It
ultimately,
was
was
it's really
it
tough.
was it as bad as you thought it was going to be, as the stories in your head?
Okay, so I've reflected on this, and in the moment, you feel like it is the worst thing in the entire world. I remember I feel like I cried every single day. My husband would probably validate that. And you
Mm.
feel like it's never going to end. When I look back, yeah, when I look back on that time of my life and I think about, okay, here I am now reflecting on a year ago. I don't remember that pain as sharply as I did back then, right? Like when you're in
Mm.
it, you feel so just, out of control and sad and hopeless. But a year later, looking back on it, I'm like, was it really that bad? I remember it feeling like it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life. And no, there's no doubt in my mind it is. But when you look back on it and you think to yourself, okay, I did that. Like that was such a huge milestone and I did it. And in the moment it felt impossible. But like here I am now a year later and I'm on the other
Yeah.
side of it and it's not as bad, right? Like it was so hard in the moment, but now it doesn't seem as bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to point out two things.
Yeah,
One, what I'm hearing you say is like that it is temporary. You are
it's
not going to
temporary.
feel that bad
Nope,
forever.
nope.
Okay. And so I want to touch on that. And while you were going through this kind of bad time, Julia, was
Yeah,
there any ways that you were bringing? Because that was always kind of a thing in the program is like, all right, well, how are we also still living our life alongside doing this hard thing? Like, are
yeah.
we laughing? Are we playing? Are we bringing joy? Can you think of any things that helped you feel kind of somewhat like yourself during that
Yeah.
time?
Yeah. So, first thing, yes, temporary, right? Like that period of time is temporary and it feels like it's not in the moment, but it is. And I remember my mom was so instrumental in just helping me every single day kind of make sense of it all. And I remember she bought me temporary pants. She would buy me
Mm.
these things because, nothing was fitting anymore. And so she said, here are your temporary pants. And she just kept reminding me, like, this too shall pass. Like, it will not be this way forever. This is a season. You will get on the other side of it. And like, it's true. Here I am a year
Yeah.
later, and I can say that.
Yeah.
But so first thing with that. And then what did I do for joy? So I think and this is answering that, but also I think just alongside of like how can you help yourself in that moment when you're so down and so
Mhm.
just melancholy about the process. One of the best pieces of advice that my husband gave me, because I could cry to him, I could talk to him about it, but he's not going through it, right? He's not
Mhm.
doing the work. He's watching me do it, but he's not in it with me. He said finally, maybe it was like 3 weeks in, he said, I think you should try to make a friend. And
Mm.
I was like, okay, because he can't relate, right? Like he can hug
Mhm.
me and console me, but he can't relate. And so one of the things that brought me the most joy during that process was making a friend. And I remember feeling like such like a middle school. I don't know. I just there was a girl in my group who was you could tell she had a very warm heart. She had a great personality, was very vibrant, and I was like, okay, I think I want her to be my friend. And I think I
Yep.
messaged her on Instagram or maybe it was Facebook because that's where we did all of our
Mhm.
like chats and whatnot. And so then we became fast friends. We sent each other voice memos every single day. They were, minutes long and it was cheering each other on. It was saying, we were saying to one another, like, you've got this. You just, don't go to that workout class. Like, it was like we were helping each other just go all in,
Mm.
commit to it, and remain in it because it's so easy in the moment to be like, screw this. I'm going to go to a workout class. I just need it, right? Like, I just need it for my
Yeah.
mental health. And so when you have somebody else who's like, yeah, I'm not going to the workout class either, you just, you're in it with them, and you feel that sense of like, okay, well, she's not doing it, so I shouldn't do it. So it's
Yeah.
the camaraderie. And so making a friend was like one of the best things that I did. And she brought
Hmm.
so much joy to the process when it felt like it was like, it was sucking
Mhm.
out all the joy of your life. But
Yeah.
we helped each other get through. I got my period and then she got hers like 2 weeks later. So we were on the
Mm.
same page. And I think making a friend who's also in the same place as you, like, if she was going to the gym some, then I would want to go to the gym some. But we were both like, nope,
Yeah.
we're doing this. We're not going to let ourselves slip up. Like,
Yeah.
we're doing this together. And here we are a year later. Like, she wanted to come to my baby shower. She was
Oh.
invited, like all the things. And we text still weekly and send each other voice memos and whatnot. So I think that's
Uh,
one of the biggest things that brought me joy during that process was making a new friend and having a buddy to like go alongside you and cheer you on and pick you up, especially because we would both have good days and bad days. And it was like my good day was maybe her bad day, but we kind of propped each other up, and that was
yeah.
such an incredible gift.
Yes, amazing. And thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing that, Julia. That's absolutely beautiful. And to lead into my little second point I wanted to say is that
Yeah.
now, because you did this hard thing, period recovery, now you have proof that you can absolutely do hard as heck things.
Oh my
Right?
God.
There's
Yes.
there's proof. There is proof. And for
There
anyone
is
that's
proof.
listening, this is your proof again of knowing that
Yeah.
it is possible. And just like you shared in the beginning of the podcast, it was like, well, I thought I was going to be like the exception. And
Yeah.
so, and you weren't, right? But
Nope.
it's the
Nope.
stories we tell ourselves in our head. So I want to know for you, Juliet, how do you feel like doing this hard thing in recovery, getting your period back, has helped shape you into the mom you are right now? Because being a mom is definitely no easy feat. How do you think that's
No.
helped you in regards to like now you're not like, oh my God, I have to wake up and I have to get a workout in or any of
Right.
those kind of old behaviors. So how has that helped you now in your new identity as a mom?
Helped so much. To your point, priorities, right? My priorities are so different than what they were 15 months ago. My main priority back then was working out, and now it's caring for my child, and that will always be number one. A workout will never replace her or time with her. And so going through the program helps me prioritize, okay, it's okay to have a rest day. And so now I'm okay when I don't have a workout. I'm okay that I can just go on a walk with her and be looking at her in my stroller versus being like, bye, I'm going to go to the gym for an hour and a half and miss out on time with you, right? Like, there is a
Mm,
space for me to have time for my workout so that I'm taking care of myself, but it's in a very, very different way than it was just a year or, 15 months ago. So
yeah.
prioritizing has helped me be able to prioritize as a mom. And, now that I'm breastfeeding too, nutrition is obviously such a big part of that. And I don't think that if I had done IVF and then became a mom, I'd be eating the same way that I had always been. And that would not be a recipe for success as someone who's breastfeeding, because you
Mm,
have to have that really good nutrition to be able to have the energy to feed my child, right? So I learned all of those habits through period recovery, and that's been so huge on the other side of it. And that will, allow me to live my life more freely go forward too, because I'm not prioritizing the workouts. I'm not obsessing over what I'm eating, right? Like, I had so many people give us meals when it's called a meal chain, right? Whenever you have a baby, like, you have friends that bring over food. The previous me probably would have not eaten any of that, right? It had
mm,
all of this, carbs and cheeses and all the things, and I ate it with no, second guessing it. So I attribute a lot of that to period recovery and all of the things that I learned through that process of just resting your body and fueling it appropriately to have better outcomes, which is exactly where I am today. So I feel so fortunate for that. And I think that will
yes.
help me to be a better mom, to then be able to show my daughter, like, you don't have to kill yourself in the gym every day. You shouldn't prioritize that first. Like, family is first, and making sure that you're taking care of your body is such a big part of being healthy, truly being healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it sounds like, Julia, not only did you get a period back, not only did you get a baby, but a more free life. Right? Like,
Absolutely.
it's
Yep.
almost like a whole layer has been peeled off of you so you can enjoy being present with your daughter
Exactly.
and not rush from one thing to the next, which I guess, in the grand scheme of things, we live busy lives and sometimes it's really hard
Yep.
that we have things to do. So there still might be a sense of
Oh,
rush, but
yeah,
it's
they're
not.
still rushing.
Yeah. But there's not like the rush of like, "Oh my god, what did I eat today? How much did I eat today?
Yeah,
And did I get a
yeah,
workout in? And oh my gosh, did I get a hard enough workout in because now I had cake that, my
yeah.
parents brought over," and like,
The
the
spirals.
the spirals that go on, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so thinking about that, could you like sometimes I think I reflect even to this day, my kids are 7 and 9. I'm like, I couldn't imagine being a mom and still having those thoughts. Now do
Yeah.
people do it out there? Yes, they do.
Mhm.
And I send so much love and grace and all the things to them. But at the same time, would you say life is just a lot more beautiful now without that kind of layer of all the thoughts and the things?
Absolutely. It's just so much more freeing. You're not second guessing things. You're just living without the guilt that's behind
Mm.
you, or this is what you should be doing, right? It's like
Yeah, the
I'm doing
guilt, the
this and I'm
shame.
enjoying it. Yeah. I'm living presently. I am, yes, there's times where you're rushing, but that's just part of life, but it's a different kind of rush. It's not rushing because you're trying to fit in something that you shouldn't be trying to fit in necessarily. So I'm so
Well,
fortunate that I went through the program and that I learned. It's like learning the foundations, right? Like you have to learn the foundation to be successful. And so I
yeah,
feel like I relearned that foundation through period recovery, which then led me into being able to be a better mom and to be able to have a healthier lifestyle. And then as she's growing up, I've relearned those traits so that if she's looking at me, I'm her example, right? And I don't want her to create bad habits because maybe I have bad habits. So
yeah.
it can be multi-generational, and I want to be the best mom to her that I can possibly be. And so setting her up for success is a huge priority for me.
Okay, so it sounds like, Julia, that you we got the period, not only the period, but the baby, but also the freedom around food, and now being able to be more present with your baby, and now being able to pass this beauty down to
Mhm.
your little girl and maybe more kids if you decide you want more.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. And so I want to know, to kind of wrap this all up in a nice little bow. I know you said the advice you'd give your younger self, but would you give the same
Hmm.
advice to women listening, or what advice would you give them if they're kind of in the thick of, recovery and they want to get their periods back? Maybe they want
Mm.
to become a mom like in the near future or the current future, but
Yep.
what advice would you give them?
Don't give up. Lean in. It's uncomfortable and it sucks, but it's temporary and it is so worth it in the end. You know, Sorry. Little crying happening down there. Um,
Aw.
so I would say, give it your all. And, everybody has their different version of going all in, but I truly believe that going all in is going to help you get to the place that you want to go faster. And, don't be afraid to lean in, as uncomfortable as it is. You're going to see results on the other side. And maybe it's not in the same time that you want, but you will see them eventually if you give it your all and if you stick to the plan. So I would say that. And, lean on the support that you have in the group or whatever you're going through, whether it's a person in your life or if you're in a formal program. Like I said, having a buddy with me along the way, like
Mm.
I attribute half of my success to her, because I think without her, I would have been in a really dark place and maybe I would have given up. Who knows? But we helped each other continue on through the process. So having a buddy, giving it your all, and just continuing on. That's the biggest and best thing that you can do. And you will see results. It's just you have to keep going and reminding yourself that it's only temporary. And I think another big thing that I did was I listened to like all of your podcasts, and I can't say that enough, and that's why I feel like it's, like, such a full circle moment because, I was literally every day listening to a new story of success, and that motivated me so much to just hear, "Okay, that person did it, I can do it." Because, again, you tell yourself, "I'm gonna be the exception. I'm not gonna be able to do this. It's not gonna work for me." But by just listening to more and more, I was like, "Okay, I've got this, I've got this." And then you start to see signs and symptoms of like your body re-wakening up, and it's really cool to see, and it's
Mm,
so encouraging. So use the resources of the podcast, make a friend, go all in, and the sky's the limit, to be
yeah.
honest.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Julia. And it is so
Yeah.
beautifully full circle. And now you live in the beautiful
I
library of all the
know.
amazing successes, which
Yeah.
is so amazing.
It's wild. I mean, truly like a full circle moment because that's all I wanted was to be the person on the podcast at the end of this being like,
I just
"I
want to
did
get
it and
there.
you can
Yes.
do it too." And like, I'm here to tell you, you really can do it. So it's amazing.
Oh,
It really is.
thank
But it's
you
all,
so
you're a
much.
huge part of that. So you and the group and um all of the girls in there, you cheer each other on and without them,
Yes.
I think if I had done it on my own, I wouldn't have known how to do, that was the thing, like, the IVF folks and specialists, they're like, "Just do it." You don't even know where to begin, and so having
Yeah.
that support and having the foundation of, like, "Here's everything that you have to eat, and here are the people that can support you." Without that, I think I would have floundered and I would have ended up in IVF,
So the last piece of
thanks.
advice, support.
Yeah,
Yes, and
yeah,
you are
so
so welcome, Julia. It is all my
it's
pleasure, and
yeah,
I still to this day I can't believe I get to do what I get to do and impact women just like yourself, and not only helping them get their periods back and become moms, but becoming better versions and more connected
yeah,
versions of themselves so they can live their most full free life. So thank
yep.
you, and thank you
So
for
well said.
showing up for
Yeah,
yourself, and thank you
uh,
so, so much for sharing your story, Julia.
yes, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you.